Okay, so the last example I want to show you in these notes is comparing segments for congruence. And I gave you a coordinate plane, an XY plane here, to graph some segments and then compare to see whether they're congruent or not. So what congruent means is it means two figures that have the same size and the same shape. So once we get to shapes, we're going to talk more about congruence. We have a whole chapter dedicated to it. But for congruence and segments, all you need to know, two segments are congruent if they have the same length, all right? So I'm going to show you how to determine that with these two segments here. So we're going to plot FG and JH. So first I'm going to plot point F, 4, 5. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So F is going to be right there. G, -1, +5. It's going to be right there. And I'm just going to connect those the best I can. And I'm going to use a different color to draw J to H, or H to J. So H is 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's point H, and then point J, 1, 2, 3, and then -1, 2. So that segment is right there. Now, what we're doing here is we are comparing these segments to see if they are the same length. And with these two especially, I think it's pretty straightforward to count these segments to see what their lengths are. So from F to G or G to F, doesn't matter which direction you count in, I'm going to go left to right. GF or FG is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units long. Okay, 5 units, 5 boxes long. JH, do the same method. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. JH is 5 units long. These segments are the same length, so we can say that these segments are congruent, all right? So the way I'm going to show that, you're going to see this symbol more often in future chapters. I'm going to write this as FG and JH, and the way I compare them, it looks a lot like an equal sign. It just has this little squiggly line that goes with it. So that means FG is congruent to JH. They're the same length. Congruent means same length. So for these kind of cover previous examples in the notes, but I think you guys can handle this. I'd like you to do this guided practice and then check your answers with me. I want you to pause the video, work through these, and in a few seconds I'm going to go over the answers to this. And before you get started on this, I'd just like to note, I'd like you to do this as a 1/10 of a centimeter, this segment, okay? Just a heads up. Just measure that with the ruler I gave you and measure it to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter, okay? So pause the video, and in a few seconds I'm going to show you guys the answers and I'm going to explain them. Okay, so moving on. If we measure this segment, we look at it again, I would say it's closest to 5 centimeters. If you were close, you know, we can talk about that, but the measuring, it's just whichever unit it's closest to, whichever tick mark it's closest to, okay? That's how we determine which centimeter measurement we give that segment. So that one hopefully is pretty straightforward. Number 2, we've got a little bit more going on here where we've got QS and PQ that we're trying to find. So I'm going to start with QS. And the way I looked at this problem was QS is the distance from here to here, Q to S. And we know of 2 segments that make up that distance. So all I really got to do is add those 2 segments together. That's why QS is 61 units long. Okay? Just had to add those 2 together. As far as PQ goes, PQ is this distance right here. Well, from this point, I'm going to look at 55 makes up the distance from P to R. So all I really have to do to find PQ is subtract the 31 from 55 to get 24. So if we know the entire length of the segment, we know we're probably going to have to do some sort of subtraction, okay? And we're trying to find part of that segment. If we know each part, we're trying to find the whole length, we just add those two segment lengths together. And then finally, number 3, same as before, you graph both of your segments, you count the number of boxes those points are apart, and if you notice here, AB is 6 units long, this would be CD. I'm gonna fix my points here really quick. Wrote my points wrong. So this other point is CD, sorry about that. But either way, AB and write this better, CD. Those aren't congruent. If I can erase, maybe not. There we go. CD. Those are not congruent, those segments, okay? So just being able to graph, count the boxes, compare the lengths. So now you're probably ready for the practice. Make sure you're going through each problem carefully, asking questions, and if you've got time, do the should-do problems, if I give you any should-do problems, because those, you can bet ones like that will show up on our unit tests, and it's really good practice to just, as long as you're on track, do the should-dos. I know they're not graded, I know they're not part of the assignment, but they're a really good thing to help you think a little bit deeper and grasp these concepts a little bit better.